Leopold Goenitz, known as Goenitz, is a character from the King of Fighters saga, appearing for the first time as the final boss of the game in the King of Fighters 96. The name Goenitz was taken from a 1974 alien character in the anime called Space Battleship Yamato. In this video, I will explain the real story behind the King of Fighters 96 main antagonists. But before we start, please do not forget to subscribe and share this video. Goenitz was born in Central Europe between Switzerland and Sweden, into a very wealthy family. Nothing is known about his life after his early youth years, only from his union with Orochi. He grew up as a normal young man but discovers that he has amazing abilities, as his enraged creates great gusts of wind and deadly tornadoes. He has the element of wind under his control, and for this reason, he is known as Goenitz, the Whipping Wind. Thus, he discovered that he possessed great power, learning more and more about him and knowing that he was an emissary of Orochi. He knew his duty as a heavenly king and made haste to revive his master Orochi as one of the 8 members of the Hakkesshu. At 18, he met Rugal, who at that time was 25 years old and was in search of Orochi's power. But being denied that power, Rugal became angry and lashed out at Goenitz. However, he defended himself and took an eye off him for it. Surprised by Rugal's persistence, he granted him a bit of Orochi's energy. As an experiment, he granted Rugal some of Orochi's power to see if he could become a valid host for the entity. Goenitz eventually assigns the task of observing the crime lord to 2 other Hakkesshu, Mature and Vice. Meanwhile, he paid a visit to a remote village where a Hakkesshu member, Gaedel, a former Orochi servant who escaped his wrath, or known as Leona's father. To Goenitz's surprise, Gaedel was living a peaceful life and had no interest in their lord's mission. In response, Goenitz awakened the power of the blood Riot in his daughter Leona, who, powerless of reason, murders her entire family and the townspeople. Pleased with the results, he sealed away her memories and continued to look for ways of speeding up Orochi's revival. Prior to the events of the 95 tournaments, Goenitz begins to trace the descendants of the Yada, Yasukani, and Kusanagi clans. His main target back then was the Orochi seal keeper, Maki Kagura, whom he murdered to break the seal. After that, he ordered Mature and Vice to watch over Iori Yagami. Goenitz then decided to test the strength of the young Kusanagi in person. However, it was obvious that Kyo is no match for him. Later, he interrupts the 1996 tournament to finally end all 3 heirs at once. In the final events of the tournament, he is defeated by Kyo with the help of Iori and Chizuru. Before disappearing, Goenitz tells them that the Orochi power was far from being destroyed, and that soon they would have to kneel down to the incredible Orochi power. Goenitz then raises his hand and disappears into the wind, declaring Kyo as the ultimate winner of the King of Fighters 96.
Goenitz and the other deceased Hakkesshu still haunt the mortal realm at Orochi's behest. Orochi seems to want him to study the current mentality of humans, and Goenitz obeys by occasionally materializing his spirit into the mortal realm to have philosophical conversations with random people. He shares one such chat with Ninon Bear.
The King of Fighters 14. Due to Versus' actions during the events of KOF 14, it is likely Goenitz has been revived as well, as confirmed by the saga. A strong argument of this possibility is the revival of the entire New Faces, now Orochi team, fellow Hakkeshus, which will be introduced in the coming up KOF 15. Though influenced by Orochi, he retains much of the mannerisms and civility of a priest, which is reflected in his winning poses. He bears the same. Goenitz is very agile and his hands can be used to cut and pierce like a knife. He is one of the characters with the best control over the wind element, being capable of even multiple hurricanes at will. He is the first to appear of the 4 kings of Orochi, who shows to have control of the wind. He can create from small to large tornadoes, one after another or simultaneously, with just the snap of his fingers. Simply snapping his fingers, he can create a series of wind cuts that can severely cut the opponent. Goenitz can attack the opponent with his own nails, followed by wind cuts coming from the nails when ripping the wind. and then finishes him off with a tornado that seriously damages him. Blood Riot. As a Heavenly King, he can activate the Blood Riot on those who are part of Orochi's blood, in Leona and later in Iari. Famous quotes. Done already. And such a good wind keeps blowing too. The world burns with malice and hatred. There is no way to overcome true chaos. The end of everything begins now. Let joy and despair madden you. KOF Appearances. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more videos and tell me in the comments which characters I will be making. Until then,